So right now we are all trying to navigate this pandemic and the stress and anxiety that it creates in all different platforms and all different ways in our lives. And I thought it just would be great to lean on a couple of people in our church that are professionals at this in helping people deal with stress and anxiety and even working through crisis that they have in their lives. So as you can see, Andrea Duntley's with us and Joanna Majka. I've known these ladies for a long, long time. They actually are also small group leaders. They work with high school girls. And first of all, thanks guys for doing that, because you sacrifice every Wednesday night. And I'm a dad of a daughter. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's amazing work that you guys do. But introduce yourselves, like, and you know, what you do and where you're at. Andrea, go first.
I'm Andrea Duntley. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm part of a private practice here in Tulsa called Resolve Behavioral Health. That's what I do professionally. I work with juniors and seniors, the small group girls at Horror Youth. Have about, I don't know, 8 or so girls in my group. Is that all you wanted?
Yeah,
for
no,
me?
it's good. Yeah, and
Okay.
how about Joanna?
Yeah, so I'm Joanna Majka, and I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work part-time at the Grief Center doing their outreach programming, and then I have a private practice where I see mostly trauma and deal a lot with anxiety. And I have the 9th and 10th grade girls at youth, and I love getting to meet with them, so I'm super sad during this time not having that face-to-face interaction.
Oh, it's crazy. You guys are doing your best to do this over Zoom, kind of like we are right now. And it's great, but it's just, there's no substitute for being there. And I think that's the number one thing we're all learning right now. So people are dealing with isolation, and Joanna, you just said anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit. Let's start with you. Talk to us about the anxiety people are feeling right now. What is it normal? And or is there something wrong with me because I'm, you know, my heart's racing and I'm just constantly on edge?
Yeah, so I think what I've been noticing this week, not only within myself, but a lot of my clients, I think when we had to initially do the self-isolation, we're kind of in this shock. Everybody moved into kind of survival mode, and you're just, you know, how do I get from one second to the next? What I've been noticing this week is some of that newness of it, or the shock that's been settling in. And I've been noticing a lot more of the emotions coming up, not only within my home, but also with my clients. So, you know, here's the deal with this pandemic. Our brains do not have anything to compare it to. None of us have gone through this before.
Right.
And just by nature, you know, when your world's turned upside down, there's going to be a lot of anxiety. It's normal. It's to be expected. And, you know, it's trying to figure out different strategies to manage the anxiety is what is important right now. You know, I don't know about you guys, but there's so much on social media about use this time to do this and clean out your house. And I mean, that can be stressful it is for me. And really, I think we need to be in, like, let's just figure out how to get through this minute and
Right.
focus on, you know, how do I breathe today, and how do I, you know, get food on the table and get the dishes done. Just simple tasks without feeling like we have to conquer the world during this time, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm. So what are some, talk to us about, Andrea, talk to us about maybe some techniques that you would tell your clients to do when they're facing anxiety or a high stressful situation. I mean, basically what we're all dealing with right now. What are just some simple techniques other than just, you know, I mean, I understand breathing, but like, what can I do?
Well, so breathing, a lot of people just say, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. And that's not what it is. It's taking a deep breath and letting it go, which is what is important. I teach clients to count their breaths, and it sounds silly and basic, but first of all, it's a really good distraction because you're counting, and your body senses that, and your brain's like, whoa, she's trying to get me to chill out. So if you breathe in while you count to like 4, pause for 2, and then breathe out as long as you can, longer than you breathed in, and do that
Okay.
like 4 times in a row.
So that's legit. It really works. Like
Yeah,
that's a
and
legit deal. Like because
yeah,
it's something we say all the time. Hey, you need to breathe. Just breathe. And that's
yes.
actually something you need to do.
Yeah, and it sends a signal to your brain to chill out, and it distracts you because you're counting, times 4. And like Joanna was saying, like you don't have to do all of these things just because you have all of this time. And if that's your personality to deep clean your house, go for it if that calms you. But if that's not your personality, don't do that, because that's just going to cause more stress.
Okay.
Um,
So is that like do something you enjoy? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, there are people in this world that clean to relieve anxiety. That is not me. When I first started self-isolating here, one of my best friends on day 3 was like, well, I deep cleaned my entire house. Now what I do? And I was like, well,
me.
It was not Joanna. And I was like, well, it's day 3 and I'm almost ready to get off the couch. Like I needed the time.
Oh, okay.
And I needed to allow myself, because I knew that's my personality. High stress. I need time to absorb, come up with the plan, allow myself to do it, and there's a difference between, I wasn't avoiding everything. I was just taking it in and allowing myself to do that.
Talk to us for a minute just about that, this idea of escape. There's a difference between escaping, and then there's just allowing just yourself an opportunity to have the pressure come off. Is that right? Like, how do you navigate that?
Sure. I think it depends. Well, it's what your motivation is. Whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling like I just need a minute to escape, to regulate myself, versus I can't deal with any of this, I'm going to avoid it all, so I'm going to scroll on my phone for an hour.
Right.
If you just really allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, where is it? And if it's, I'm overwhelmed and I need to just check out for an hour, that's what you do. If it's, well, I'm feeling this and it's really uncomfortable and I don't want to feel it, so I'm going to scroll on my phone for an hour.
Okay.
I think that's the big difference there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Joanna, you obviously work with a lot of children that have lost people that they love, parents and people close to them, and helping them deal with grief. How do you effectively process and know when is it okay to think about, like, people who are going through job loss and financial loss, and it's so heartbreaking and overwhelming to them? Is it okay for them to sit and think about it? Is that healthy, or should you go, no, I shouldn't think about it. I got to push it away. Like, talk to us about that. How do you process that?
Yeah. I've been a huge advocate at the Grief Center for just acknowledging that we can experience grief not just after a death loss, but after any type of loss. And probably every single group that I do, we have this conversation. It's important because society normally doesn't give us permission to grieve non-death related losses. So I think it's important to understand that there is grief associated to it. And grief are just all of those really big feelings or reactions that we have to a loss. And I think the goal is to find ways to, we don't get to avoid grief. We can take on strategies that feel like they're, skirting around it, but it doesn't work. That's not how grief works. So the goal of grief is to find healthy ways to be able to feel those feelings in ways that don't lead to overwhelm and, shut down. We don't want that to happen, but we have to really be intentional about finding some of those strategies that allow us to get in touch with what we feel. And with loss, there are a lot of real losses happening right now that probably, when I was talking about, we're coming 2 to 3 weeks out of it, that people are feeling for the first time, or just even having enough energy to look at it in, a new and a real way, kind of reality of it setting in. So I think that it's important to, again, whatever works for you, what strategies work for each person, but to find ways to intentionally move into it. I believe that every time we take something inside and get it out, it leads to healing. We have to find ways to do that. So whether it's journaling or talking about it, praying about it, bringing all of the loss aspects of it to God and just saying, you get this, I don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to live in that place, but we have to honor the feelings. They're there for a reason, and we have to find really healthy ways. I think that I probably use with every single client 5 times a session, find ways to, experience all of this, in a way that serves you. We each are unique, and how that looks is different for each one of us, but that's kind of the goal, is finding out the strategy for, especially grief, finding ways to express it in a way that no longer, that curves it, or that serves us but doesn't cause us harm.
I think one of the most helpful things that you ladies have said, at least for me today, is that this idea that we all process differently, and we need to give each other space. When our family went through a really, really, really traumatic event several years ago, and I went through counseling, and our family went through counseling, that was one of the biggest things I learned, is that we all process differently. And so within the context of even your own home, that you need to allow, like, you see somebody, you get up, do something, or you're like, if you hear like where Andrew, you're saying, I just need to sit down, and I need to process. I need to just almost, and some people can interpret that and say, well, she's vegging out and being lazy. And you need to get up, move, and do something, which sounds like what a dad would say, in the middle of something like that. But I think that's so, what I love is how you both have expressed that over and over. I hear you saying that is, it's finding your way through it, and how you process, and how it's healthy for you. I know we could talk on this for hours, but this has been just, honestly, it's been incredibly helpful, and we may do it again. So as we go through this, if people feel like, hey, I would love to hear some more on this, maybe as we go through this, because this is the thing. We all thought by now we'd be back. We thought, oh yeah, Easter, we'll be back at church, and we'll be Easter egg hunting, and we'll all be shopping again and going to restaurants. And we're all finding out that this is not a sprint. It is turning into a marathon. And so it may be that we have to visit again. So, but I'm just so appreciative you guys give your time. If people wanted to get in contact with you, let's say they are going through grief, or they need, maybe it's a crisis on top of a crisis, and they're like, man, I need somebody to talk to. I obviously wouldn't be talking to you ladies if I didn't recommend you. Andrea, how do they get in contact with you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Probably my email. It's my name, Andrea Duntley, at resolvebhs.com. And I just want to say real quick, a big part of this is reaching out, finally saying, okay, I'm struggling. Reach out to your friends, but obviously we're pro-therapy, we're therapists, but everyone's doing it. This is how I see my clients. This is how Joanna is seeing our clients. A lot of insurances right now are waiving co-pays. There's just a lot of change. They're trying to make it so it's accessible to everybody. So that's just an FYI. You can see a therapist once a week in your pajamas with your cup of coffee, on your back porch if you want to right now. So
that's how I'm seeing everybody in our church too, as well.
And you can see your therapist like that too, maybe for no copay. So
yeah. All right, Joanna, they want to get in touch with you. How would they do that?
Yeah, so same thing. I would give you my email, Joanna, last name majkalpc@gmail.com. If you are struggling with grief, then I would point you to the Grief Center, and their phone number is 918-587-1200.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.